So, ladies and gentlemen, the death of the former education CS, Professor George Magoha, has brought about the debate around the Kenya's education system. And he has been celebrated by both the previous government and the current Kenya Kwanza government as one of the reformists who really were interested and were determined to change the direction of our education system now that we look like we lost focus on the objective and why people go to school. And see, many people have said different things. I personally posted a video on TikTok and it went viral. It got around 500,000 views and people criticized. They tried to tell me that I should keep silent. I should not be speaking about some things that somehow I will disappear. I wondered why Kenyans see things in such a manner. But can we have a discussion about this education system? Because basically, if you ask anyone, if you ask government, they will tell you that education is the single most tool that is used by economies and used by the countries to fight, one, to fight poverty, two, to fight ignorance, to fight bad culture. And some people, some scholars like Julius Nyerere of Tanzania will tell you that education forms individuals who are useful to their society. As they contribute to their economies and their countries and their society, that education gives them good life. So the question I'm asking Kenyans today is the current education system, the 844 that was previously being taught in our schools before the CBC came, is it assuring good life for the graduates? Those who have completed the 844. The 844 meant 8 years in primary schools, 4 years in secondary schools, and 4 years in universities. So after coming out of university, is the 844 system, or is that education assuring good life to those who have completed studies? That is a fundamental question that we need to ask ourselves, because basically why people go to school, if you look at setups in a poor background, there are people who can sell their everything to ensure that one of their own has gone to school. I mean, if a student has gone to primary school and you have scored some good marks, 400, 300s, your family does whatever it can. If it means to sell land, if it means to sell their house, anything they have, so that you get that education, they can sell with the desperate hope that you will bring some good life. You will change the dynamics of that family. Okay? In other words, I mean, education is motivated by what those who are educated have achieved in life. For example, if you are a father or you are a mother and you went to school and you studied law in university, you become a successful lawyer. Your children and your children's children will be determined and they will be interested to partake that particular course because they see you are a successful lawyer, and that law degree, that education has provided some good life to you. That education has provided you with everything that you need. However, if you are the same parent, and both of you, or you have gone to school, you have studied education, you have studied commerce, you have taken procurement, you have taken medicine, but however you are unemployed, the kind of job you're doing is just as casual as somebody who never went to school. Maybe you work at Mjengo, you work as a part-time teacher who is paid 9,000 in the 21st century in Nairobi or in major cities, which cannot sustain you. You cannot even give your children the life that they deserve now that you're a graduate, you have completed studying. That kind of a child who will be brought up in such an environment will not be motivated to go to school based on the hope that he or she will get better life. You as a parent, you will not be motivated to take your child or to take your student to school because after all, you have gone to school, you have passed through the 844 system, but anyway, the objective that you will get a better life after studying you have not achieved it. You're still struggling like anybody else in the society who never went to school and doesn't know what a class means. So this is where Kenyans need to ask themselves and to question the reason for education and why we have this education and why we need to change and where we went wrong. But before we criticize the 844, let's ask ourselves, why are we changing the education system every now and then? And the best thing is to look at the root cause of where the problem is and how we can solve it. And by that, we have to understand the system that came before the 844. We understand the 844 system itself, and now ask ourselves about the CBC and what gap the CBC is coming to close. Now, we start with the year 1964, immediately after Kenya got independence. Now remember, when we received or when we became independence, before then we were under the Mzungus, we were under the colonization of the British, and therefore we did what the British had determined to us. And that education system, the 7423 system, was designed in such a way that portrayed an African child in a Kenyan setup to be such inferior, because there were three categories of education. There was the African education, there was the European education system, and there was the Asian education system. Now, this African education system, the 7423, had presumed that an African adult has the same mental capability as the white man's 7-year-old boy. So that in itself, even without going to the deep details on what they were being taught in school and what kind of knowledge they were being instilled, it had already demeaned the capacity of the black man. The black man was seen to be such inferior to the white man that he could not handle such education that a white man would get. By now, I hope you are understanding the racist system that the Mzungus had brought to Africans and specifically to Kenyans. There was obviously the need to change. Now, besides that, you need to understand that besides this being racist, the system being racist, it was still producing more graduates than the country then would handle. So unemployment went high, and organizations like the ILO, the International Labour Organization, told Kenya that there was need to change the education system so that to deal with the problem of unemployment. So in the year around 1985, the 844 system came into pass, and this 844 system was informed by the Mackey report of 1982, and this system was it was piloted between 1981 to 1982 to 1985 for 4 years before it was now implemented by the government. And back then, according to the Ministry of Education in the then government, they said that the 844 system was supposed to encourage the graduate it was supposed to encourage the students to become more self-reliant. And according to their definition of self-reliance back then, a self-reliant person is such a person who is more active, competent, who is creative and independent. And they assumed that this person, the self-reliant person, was able to initiate a self-employment. Okay, so that would deal with the problem of unemployment that was being realized back then. And the system was quite good. I have heard some people asking themselves what was wrong with the 844 system. It was good in the beginning. It was good because it had such syllabuses that would nurture talents. Syllabuses like the home science, art and craft, music, mother tongue, that taught the African child about the African way and the African culture. The students would know how to speak their own language. and understand the complex issues that would help them after graduating. But with time, between back then, between 1985 and when the CBC, the new system, was being launched, the education system got diluted. It was diluted such that they removed all these syllabuses that would be used or that were very important in terms of nurturing talents and nurturing abilities of students while they were learning. Syllabuses like home science and art and craft, music, mother tongue, all these syllabuses were removed. Now, after removing that, therefore, the education system became purely academic. And that is how the art of cramming came in, because all you did not need to be creative to create a nyungu that you created when they were studying art and craft. You did not require the creativity or the skill to make a chondo. You know that chondo the old women used to make. You did not require the skills to make sweaters. Those sweaters za mauzi zenye wamama walikuwa wanatengeneza I hope you have seen either your grandmother or your mother making one. Those who came across that education system. Okay? So after they removed those syllabuses, therefore, all the students needed was to cram the rest of the syllabus, which is English, math, science, what you only needed to cram. So education was more of exam oriented. You only go to school to pass exam. If you don't pass exam, then you become useless in the system. And that is actually how the privatization or how commercialization of education came to pass. You started hearing about academies, you started hearing about private schools and boarding schools that were basically meant to teach your child or to teach students how to cram exams. So cramming became more important than nurturing talents. So all the students, the teachers, the parents are now focusing on how the student will pass exams than what the student would become after passing exams. Remember, that is the system in Kenya, not the global system. At the same time, there is an international system of education that still have this provision to nurture talent and to instill more than education. So parents started being concerned about the future of their students or why their children are being educated. Now, I have a friend who at one time approached me and told me that he had received some bad information about some bad statement from the school where his son used to go. And the information was that the son had failed exams and was always failing in exams. And the reason that the class teacher gave is that this son spends almost all his time sleeping in class, playing around and making noise he would not miss in the list of noisemakers. When it comes to exam results, the student was always poor. The results were always bad. So the parent was concerned and he wondered what to do with this son. And so he started by trying to see where is the problem with my son. And when he sat down with the son told him that he doesn't hear what the teacher teaches in class. He goes so fast, even if he goes slow, he doesn't understand because that is not the only subject he is failing. So this guy, a friend of mine, asked the son, what are you interested in now that you can't understand anything? What can you become? The son told the father that he likes drawing. He likes art and craft. He would like to become such a person who, when he grows up, he can look at a person this way and come up with a picture or come up with a drawing that looks exactly like him. So he thought it was wise to look for a school that would nurture this talent and this interest that the son had. So he approached one of the schools, of the popular schools in the city, and that taught the international curriculum. And this school promised that they were able to nurture this talent. And with time, the child went through the system, and at some time around grade 6, they went to a meeting, and this son was presenting a drawing, an artwork that he had done to all parents in that school, and he was being praised on of how he was such a good and potential child. Now remember, in the setup, the 844 setup, this son had been bullied, and had been told that he cannot become anybody because his work is to sleep. And they actually when you see a teacher reaching a point where he can write such a message to a parent, it means it is beyond his limit or her limit. He cannot change this student anymore. And so, but when he was subjected to the international curriculum, where his interest is being considered, he becomes best, and he becomes somebody. He actually becomes the best. So my question is, how many of such like students are still attached to schools where they cannot become anybody, and the teachers have given up? They have seen that this student cannot become anybody. The parent is poor, he's still struggling with life, and what they are doing is just to let the student continue with the education and pass through the system for formalities. So basically, there was need to change the education system. There was need to think about how this education was impacting to the children and to the students who passed through it. And that is basically the gap that the owners of these academies and boarding schools they started bringing such education systems that were providing more than education to students, and parents found these as alternative to their children, or alternative education system. And somehow there became a gap, because a rich parent who doesn't have time with the child would consider someone else taking care of the child and nurturing whatever talent that the child has. So rich parents could not consider taking their children to public schools that were teaching 844. They would now consider taking their children to schools that are teaching more than 844, schools that are nurturing talents and students' interests. So somehow we established a gap between a rich parent and poor parent. So poor parents take their children to public schools where 844 system is being taught, still with the hope that 844 is going to guarantee them at the end of education some good life. And rich parent, on the other hand, taking their children to international curriculum academies and private schools that are teaching these curriculums that nurture talents and interest of the students. Okay, so at the end of it all, there is a system for the rich and there's a system for the poor. So the end product of the education system is not the same. In the 844 system, one is considered successful if you pass exams. So teachers and school heads and school owners of those private schools and academy would do anything to make sure that students from that school pass exams. Okay, and that is how cheating came into pass. Teachers would buy exams from the neck. Students would be given exams before they sit for the main exams. They would be coached. They would be taught how to cram those exams. They would pass and then go to universities. Well, there's a very interesting statement in social media that probably you have come across, that a South African lecturer once wrote to his students in master's degree and PhD levels, and told them that collapsing a nation doesn't require the use of an atomic bomb. It only requires lowering the quality of education. And in their argument, they say that building collapse in the hands of an engineer who passed exams through cheating. Patients die in the hands of doctors who passed exams through cheating. Public money is lost in the hands of procurement officers and accounting officers who passed exams through cheating. Propaganda is spread and bad information is given on the hands of journalists who passed exams through cheating. That is, in my understanding, what technocrats like Matiang'i and the late Magoha, may his soul rest in peace, found that there was need to change this education system. Because one of the things that is making Professor Magoha to be remembered and to be celebrated, and even his predecessor, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, one of the reasons they are remembered because they eliminated, or they were able to eliminate the exam cheating. The number of students who are going to university came down. Those schools that used to overperform all of a sudden started failing exams. So it was evident that they were stealing exams. So they proposed the CBC education system, and this is a system that has been successful in countries like Singapore, in Australia, in Finland. And basically this system is said to be tapping the talent of the students and directing them to where their interest is. Remember, in the 844, before the system was diluted, there was such subjects like art and craft that we spoke about. There was music, there was mother tongue, there was home science. All those were subjects that would nurture the interest of the student and the talent of the student, but we removed it. So, and now the CBC now is said to be coming, they are saying that the CBC is coming to close the same gap. The same gap that was created by removing that those subjects from the 844 system. Okay? Well, this CBC sounds to be good in terms of paperwork and in terms of how these people are speaking about it. And I know if you're watching this video until this moment, you understand that the way to go is if we have to bring sanity and to bring equality between the education that the poor man is getting and the rich man is getting, then we have to bring about this aspect of nurturing students and nurturing the talent and the interest of the students into the system. And that is what the CBC is coming with. However, this was something that was available in the 844 system, and which we removed when we removed these subjects. And the question is, the bureaucrats in the Ministry of Education understand the CBC and they understand the effects of it and the gap it is trying to close. However, that system is being rejected by those who are not in the ministry, by those who are not bureaucrats in the Ministry of Education, including senior politicians. That is why you would see the government of Kenya Kwanza during campaign. The Kenya Kwanza guys, the UDA guys would campaign saying that no, this CBC tutaiondoa, sijui this CBC tutaifanya nini, it is not good. Immediately they get in, they fire the ministers. Yes, Magoha was fired, he was replaced with somebody they are calling Machogu. All of a sudden, exam teaching is back. Kisii becomes #1 because the CS is a Kisii, the CS for education. So we get back to the thuggery of exam cheating. Okay? But where is the problem? The problem is that the students, the teachers, the head teachers, and the parent have not been made aware and have not been consulted of why we are changing the education system. The system has not been piloted, and parents think that the government is using their children as testing grounds for the new system. So if it fails, the student fails, or the children fail in their future. Because the basic question that the stakeholders are asking themselves is, why are we changing the 844 system? What is the problem with it? If there's a problem with the 844, have we tried to rectify? If the problem is that we are trying to bring back a system that will nurture the talent, why have we not brought back such subjects like home science, art and craft, those subjects that were nurturing students. Why is it so difficult? If we say even let us change the system to CBC, do we have the necessary resources to nurture these talents and to facilitate the new idea of the CBC? Do we have those resources, or are we going to overburden the parent who are already fighting with hard economic times of the fight by COVID-19, the war in Russia that has made everything to go up in terms of price, the depreciation in Kenyan currency that is making everything to become expensive, while at the same time there is no money? Are we going to the pockets of the parents to tell them to facilitate, or is it the government supposed to facilitate education? And if that question is properly answered, how will it be implemented? Those are the questions that the parents are asking themselves. So though we feel that CBC is the right idea and is coming at the right time, those in power have fallen short of answering this basic question. Remember to subscribe, like, share and leave a comment. That was Keym Explains. Thanks for watching.